I'm Alex Bell, and this is To the Point, where we give you more context and more information about issues right here in Northern California. And it's no surprise it's been a hot day. We are facing an increased risk of fire danger. These areas in red could see extreme fire behavior. This red flag warning is in effect until midnight. And at this time last year, thousands of firefighters were fighting the massive Caldor and Dixie fires. The Caldor fire, which threatened South Lake Tahoe, destroyed hundreds of homes and burned over 200,000 acres. The Dixie Fire was the biggest single wildfire in state history. It burned 1,000 homes and almost 1 million acres. PG&E admitted to starting the Dixie Fire, but did not admit to any crimes. The ABC 10 Firepower Money Team has brought you investigations for more than 3 years to hold PG&E accountable. Tonight, Brandon Rittiman shows us how PG&E started the Dixie Fire.
We've become a society that we don't hold anybody accountable anymore.
They had advance warning. Everyone in Greenville survived, but their lives as shopkeepers, teachers, plumbers, and artists, the Dixie Fire wiped those away with the town.
I think that's the deepest trauma, is like, who am I now? And I think a lot of people are struggling with that.
Sue Weber sees the struggle up close, working in the aftermath.
A lot of our elderly are passing away. And I think it's because for them, it's overwhelming.
The Dixie Fire destroyed an area the size of Rhode Island, almost 1 million acres, Canyon Dam, Indian Falls, half of Lassen Volcanic National Park. But it was Greenville that got the politicians spinning.
We lost Greenville tonight, and there's just not words for how us in government haven't been able to get the job done.
That's Congressman Doug LaMalfa, a Republican. He pointed to poor forest management as the problem behind this fire when he came up here. Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, also came up. He pointed to something else.
These are climate-induced wildfires.
But neither politician from either side of the aisle pointed to what did cause this fire, a corporation that donated to both of their campaigns. Did climate change start this fire?
No.
Did forest management start this fire?
No.
What did start this fire?
PG&E.
For the tree that was on the line, there's a tree on the line, started a fire.
This 65-foot-tall Douglas fir should have been discovered and removed by PG&E, according to CAL FIRE. Investigators found the trunk was so rotten, it couldn't support the tree's weight.
The tree grew into line or it fell into the line?
No, it fell into the line.
Butte County prosecutors say the problem was obvious.
This is not too far off from the tree that started the Dixie Fire.
The side of the trunk facing the power lines had a big section of bark missing. It'd been that way since 2008, an examination of tree rings showed. PG&E had 13 years to catch this problem, but never did.
Why did you not see this tree?
Investigators say PG&E also acted with negligence the day the tree broke, failing to take the problem seriously.
That tree was cooking for 10 hours in a very, very dangerous area.
PG&E's computers flagged trouble at 6:48 a.m., presumably the time the tree fell. But it took almost 10 hours for a PG&E employee to finally get there. When Troubleman Scott Campbell arrived, he said he noticed the tree and a small fire, the first flames of the Dixie Fire. The Troubleman's lawyers point out he risked his own safety trying to put it out. Prosecutors didn't charge Campbell. They say PG&E set him up to fail. It took PG&E about 4 hours to even give the job to Campbell. Before that, PG&E had assigned it to the wrong maintenance yard.
They basically wasted about 3.5 hours doing nothing.
Others at PG&E could have prevented this fire that day. 94 miles away in this unmarked PG&E building, operators thought about turning off the power, but decided not to.
If they'd have gotten up there earlier, if they'd have used any of the tools that were available to them, or just simply cutting off the power to that section of the line until they could get there, there would have been no fire.
So how many times does it have to happen?
The year before Dixie, PG&E pleaded guilty to crimes for sparking the campfire. PG&E's criminal neglect of a power line killed people in and around Paradise.
Campfire, we put our foot down because that's different. People died. You can't just have a civil settlement.
PG&E pleaded guilty to 84 manslaughters,
Making PG&E a felon, a killer.
The Dixie Fire sparked just up the highway in the same canyon. Butte County District Attorney Mike Ramsey says his team could have proved PG&E guilty again.
There's value in calling a crime a crime.
Correct.
That was the thing you had to give up this time.
At this point, yes.
He and the DAs of the other 4 counties that burned allowed PG&E to settle the Dixie Fire in civil court. No admission of criminal wrongdoing. In exchange, PG&E agreed to pay damages more quickly to the people whose homes burned down.
Get money back into that community.
The DAs say they wanted to avoid a repeat of the campfire, where PG&E's crime victims are still waiting for payment, almost 4 years later.
But this is super cool. I'm super stoked for this.
Sue Weber is glad for any money that'll help Greenville rebuild. The nonprofit collaborative she helps run got $3 million in the deal. But it still doesn't feel right.
It's a game. Like, for me, it feels just like a game. And it's all about money, and it's all about power.
If they had convicted PG&E of crimes in the Dixie Fire, prosecutors say the punishment would have only been less than $330,000. After Paradise, when PG&E paid a fine of only $10,000 per manslaughter victim, prosecutors called on state lawmakers to pass tougher penalties for companies.
The ball's in their court at this point.
Lead campfire prosecutor Mark Knoll says he's not even sure bigger fines would be enough. He wants the ability to jail PG&E executives if they don't keep their safety promises.
To me, that's the only real thing that's going to stop this, is if the people who are making the decisions of PG&E have consequences.
But our investigation found the legislature passed laws to protect PG&E, not punish it. They created a multi-billion-dollar insurance program, which PG&E plans to use for the Dixie Fire. We revealed the bill to create that insurance was written by lawyers working for Governor Gavin Newsom's office, a law firm that used to represent PG&E.
The laws are not made for the average American.
Despite its 91 felonies and sparking more fires every year, PG&E remains free and it remains in power.
If you don't hold somebody accountable, they will never be accountable. They will think they can do whatever they want, and they're right. They can.
Brandon's here with me to talk about his investigations into PG&E. We're coming back right after the break. I'm here with investigative reporter Brandon Rittiman from our Firepower Money team. PG&E started the Dixie Fire last year. They've admitted that they caused the fire, but don't claim responsibility for any of the crimes. And Brandon, have the people in Greenville, have they been able to get any sense of normalcy back and, move on from this at all?
Really, there's nothing normal about Greenville right now. There are a handful of businesses that have reopened in the wake of the fire. Talked to Sue, who you saw in the story, and she's very happy about each one that opens up. But it'd be a stretch to call it normal at this point. There's no community that resembles anything like what was there before, but there are people determined to bring it back, and that's what gives her some hope.
And how did you get so into investigating PG&E so extensively?
I survived their most notorious crime, the 2018 campfire. I was part of the ABC 10 team that made it up into Paradise that day, which sometimes I still remember as a nighttime event because that's just how thick and black the smoke was up there. And that experience gave me a lot of empathy for what the people went through running from that town. I mean, they were driving the other way as we were driving up. Right, running from their town. And so, to put on top of having to work to get out of the thing alive, the fact that those people don't get to go home again, their community, their whole way of life is gone. That's what was in their rearview mirror. I can't walk a mile in their shoes, but I at least got a taste of it. by being up there. And I think it's really important that California comes to terms with the criminality of this very powerful company that has a monopoly over 16 million people. People don't have a choice. And we're going to get more into that in this space next week as we bring you Secrets of the Campfire, which dives into the evidence from that case.
And if people do want to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you, Brandon?
I'm old school. I like email. So brittiman@abc10.com, or I'm on Twitter @BrandonRittiman, and DMs are open. So by all means, hit me up.
All right, Brandon, thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Appreciate it.
Thousands of mental health care workers are on strike with Kaiser. When we come back after the break, we're going to break down their demands and what Kaiser is saying. Mental health care workers with Kaiser Permanente are on strike for the third day. We first brought you this news on Monday when the strike started, and tonight we are diving deeper to get you more answers. Now, more than 2,000 mental health therapists, social workers, psychologists, and chemical dependency counselors are on strike. They've been picketing at 8 Kaiser facilities throughout Northern California and the Central Valley, and they say they are understaffed and overworked, and that patients are suffering as a result. Our lead reporter, Becca Habegger, has been looking into this. And Becca, break this all down.
Yeah, well, first of all, we have to look at this on a nationwide level, way beyond Kaiser Permanente. There is a mental health care worker shortage. And one local mental health public policy advocate says that here in California, 1 of 3 people living with a mental illness is not getting the care they need. And of all our counties, 31 of them say they have both a mental health care worker shortage and a high need for them. But here are some possible solutions.
One is increasing the diversity of the workforce so that people can get culturally competent care that they need, addressing issues of recruitment and retention, addressing issues of pay, creating career ladders for people in the workforce so that they're supported into the long term.
And this was a problem before COVID.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But COVID and now economic pressures are definitely increasing the demand for mental health care for people. We spoke with a Kaiser Permanente psychologist who says he and other providers are striking this week specifically because their union and Kaiser Permanente can't come to an agreement on how many hours per week these providers should be able to spend on what they call indirect patient care.
Which is when we receive emails and phone calls and do charting. The employer describes it as quote unquote administrative time. It is not administrative time. It is patient care time. That isn't always face to face, but it is definitely for patient interests.
For example, he says with COVID, he's seeing more emails come in every day from patients with questions. Those take his time and effort to respond to.
And what is Kaiser saying about all of this?
Yeah, well, Kaiser wants providers to spend as much time as possible with patients. For example, they say currently a therapist is allotted 6 hours per week for work outside of direct patient care. The union wants 9 hours per week. Kaiser Permanente has countered with 7.2 hours, and this strike will continue until those two groups can arrive at the same number.
And what about patients during this strike? Where does this really leave them that are still needing those services?
Yeah, for sure. This is where patients are caught in the middle of this strike. We spoke with Kaiser Permanente today. They say that as of yesterday, some 1,600 follow-up therapy appointments had to be canceled. They are reaching out to every person who is affected who has this cancellation, and they say care is available if it's needed. But they say we are grateful that several hundred of our therapists are choosing to continue to deliver care to our patients, rejecting the call by union leaders to walk away from people who need help. So in summary, the strike will continue until Kaiser Permanente and the union can agree on how many hours per week these clinicians should be allowed to do work outside of direct patient care.
All right, Becca, thank you. We appreciate it. There's a new warning from the Placer County District Attorney about a problem that you have definitely heard before. Fentanyl. They are warning against a rainbow-colored version of the synthetic painkiller, saying that no matter what the drug looks like, it is just as deadly. They say the multicolored narcotic could be more likely targeted towards children on social media. We are hearing more from the Placer County District Attorney at 11 tonight. Last night, Republican Liz Cheney lost her Wyoming primary. Wyoming was the state that former president won with the largest margin of any state in 2020. Now, Cheney's outward criticism of former President Trump proving to be her undoing. She has served as the vice chair of the House committee investigating Trump's involvement with the January 6th riots. Nonetheless, Cheney conceded her race, exactly the thing that she's been critical about Donald Trump for not doing.
Tonight, Harriet Hageman has received the most votes in this primary. She won. I called her to concede the race. This primary election is over, but now the real work begins.
And just this morning, Cheney said that she is considering running for president in 2024. Last year, investigative reporter Andie Judson uncovered the systemic issues with California's conservatorship industry that allows the abuse of the most vulnerable. And now she's bringing to light similar flaws with limited conservatorships for people with disabilities.
Conservatorships, brought to light by Britney Spears, but impact thousands every day.
A photo was sent back to us, boxing gloves taped to his arms, and a newspaper saying this is the date. It's almost like he was held hostage.
Taking some with disabilities from their families.
Where's my son? Is he alive? If I could have predicted this, we would have left the state of California.
Our 2-year investigation found a deeply broken system.
We do object to the media being in these proceedings.
Hurting the very people it's promised to protect.
This is shameful. It's shocking.
This is the price of care taken by the state.
Andie Judson here with us now, and everyone's talking about conservatorships because of Britney Spears, but talk about what you found while investigating limited conservatorships, because that's not something that's really talked about that much. I didn't even know about it.
Right. A lot of people didn't even know about conservatorships before Britney Spears. We actually started this 2-year investigation now before her story really came to light. And it's been interesting hearing people being like, oh, like Britney Spears, about when we talk about our investigation. But I think what a lot of people don't know is that there's different types of conservatorships. So in season 1, which was 5 episodes we aired a year ago, that covered general conservatorships of the elderly. And now we're looking into limited conservatorships for people with disabilities. And I think what a lot of people also don't know is that these types of conservatorships are created through the Lanterman Act, which is California law. So it's actually our taxpayer dollars supporting the system. And of course, we're going to, continue to dig more into that starting tomorrow, here.
Yeah, that's right. Make sure that you tune in at 6 o'clock for a special edition of To the Point. We'll be airing the season 2 premiere of Price of Care, commercial free for the first half hour. You definitely do not want to miss what we found. And before we go, there is a flex alert in effect until 9 p.m. tonight. The state is urging everyone, listen to this, everyone to limit their power use to reduce demand on the power grid. Let's go ahead and check out the Gilmore backyard because, as we mentioned, it was another hot day. We even saw some rain, a little plot twist there. These are your current conditions right now. We're seeing Sacramento at 90, Stockton 95, Modesto 92. But looking at your 10-day, yeah, no surprise here. It's definitely still going to be hot for the next few days. We do have a heat advisory through Friday. And right after this, we're going to be back with some of your points that you wrote into in the show last night. We did a few stories. We want to talk about them. All right, last night we told you about the Sky River Casino opening weeks ahead of schedule in Elk Grove, and some people are very excited and some people are not. Now, with any launch, there are bound to be some issues, and from what you told us, this one is no different. Hugo left us this comment. He says that half the slots aren't open yet, and he said his experience at the steakhouse was just a disaster and his order took too long. He says he doesn't think the casino is ready to be open yet. We reached out to the casino about these concerns. A spokesperson said in part, our staff remains focused on providing guest services while managing increased operation levels, and we appreciate those who extend their patience and positive attitudes towards our hardworking team members in return, end quote. Now, this show is for people who crave more from local news. We want to hear from you, and there are so many ways that you can reach out to me directly and also my team. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, or you can just go old school and send us an email. We really do want to hear from you. We hope you had a great Wednesday. We're almost to the end of the week. It's almost Friday, so we'll see you then. We hope you had a great Wednesday.